Get your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.
Data tables are a handy way of being able to change one or two variables within a formula to view and compare the different possible results within a comparison table. You can create either single variable data tables or double variable data tables. For example, you could create a single variable data table that computes and compares the possible different loan payment amounts for a loan based on different interest rates. Using the same example, you could also create a double variable data table that displays the different loan payments that could be made for various interest rates and different loan repayment lengths. Now, when you create a data table, you must organize it in a specific way based on whether it is a single variable data table or a double variable data table. All data tables consist of three basic parts: an input column or an input row, or both if you're creating a double variable data table. And then you would have an output column or an output row, or both if you're creating a double variable data table. And then you have the formula that's being evaluated within the data table. The variables that you wish to modify within the formula must be entered as separate cell references within the formula being evaluated. Now, if needed, you can create a small table that contains the cells to which you make references in the data table's formula, unless you already have cells being referenced for that purpose existing in your worksheet. Now, in a single variable data table, you have the option of arranging the data table in either a columnar layout or in a row layout. So in the column style, you would place the formula to be evaluated at the top of the output column, which would be the right of the two columns. The left column is the input column that contains all of the possible input values that you wish to evaluate for the variable reference being used by the formula. Now, in double variable data tables, there is only one way to lay out the data table. You must create both an input column and an input row. In a double variable data table, the formula that is being evaluated would be in the upper left corner, so it would be at the top of the input column and to the left of the input row. The square that would extend to the right and down from there would be your output grid, where you will see the various outcomes of the formula that's being evaluated for the different variable intersections that are placed into both the input column and the input row. So to create a data table, select the cell range that includes the formula being evaluated, the input columns or rows, and the output columns or rows. Then click the What If Analysis button that exists in the Data Tools group on the Data tab in the ribbon. Choose the Data Table command from the drop-down menu to open the Data Table dialog box. Next, click into the Row Input Cell text box and then select the cell in the worksheet that represents the changing variable shown in the input row if you have one. Then click into the Column Input Cell text box and select a cell in your worksheet that represents the variable that is changing in the input column, if you have one. In a single variable table, you will only fill in one of these two boxes. The one which you choose depends upon whether you created the data table using a column layout or a row layout. In a double variable data table, you must fill in both boxes, indicating which cell reference to use for your input column and which cell reference to use for your input row. When you are done, click the OK button in your data table dialog box to fill in the data table with the output information based on the values that you placed in your input columns or your input rows. Now you can adjust the values that are shown in your input columns or your input rows in your data table to view various possible outcomes of the formula that's being evaluated.
Like what you see? Pick up your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.